Good morning and welcome to Big Bets on Campus Live, presented by BetMGM. This is the Saturday college basketball betting preview. I'm your host, Stuckey, and joining me, as always, are the crew from the three-man weave, Matty Cox, McKeon, and, of course, Mr. Jim Root. We have a lot to get to today. We'll get to our best bets in just a second. We'll also close with a second best bet and then two other segments to get a few other plays out there on this. It's the last Saturday with more than 25 college games, football, basketball until next fall. Bittersweet. Enjoy all of the action. Enjoy the march. Before we do get started, I do want to remind everyone to make sure that you download the award-winning Action Network app. You can find all of our bets there, in addition to an abundance of data and content for today's slate and beyond. And also, our sponsor, BetMGM, has a great new offer. When signing up, use the bonus code ACTION, and you can get first bet insurance up to $1,000. Again, that is the bonus code ACTION. Also, check out a Twitter poll on the Arizona-UCLA showdown tonight. Tweeted that out on my timeline, as did the Action Network handle. Make sure you check that out. We'll talk about that game later on in the show. All right, let's get in to our best bets. I was in Aruba last week, and I'm surprised I got invited back to host the show because you guys went 8-0 on your best bets. Congratulations. A round of applause. 8-0 sweep. So hopefully we can have another big week. As always, we start off with our leadoff hitter, Matty Cox. What are you bringing to the table? Big shoes to fill.
Yeah, well, hey, welcome back, Stuck. Good to have you back out of paradise. But looking at Iona for my best bet, specifically the first half, they are on an absolute roll right now. Bart Torvik has them playing like a top 25 team since February 1st. They've covered 4 straight, including their last 3 on the road by double digits. They're laying 7 full game here today. The big angle here, though, is the double revenge because Ryder beat them last year in the MAC tournament. Then they beat them this year at Iona. That was kind of when Iona was in a little bit of a rut. They had some injuries. Now they're playing much better. I just think that on the last day of the regular season, they come out and blitz the Bronx first half. We've seen the Gales give back some in the second half, so that's why I'm targeting that first half window. But I think they just play locked in today. So laying the 4 first half with the Gales.
Should be a highly motivated spot for the Gales. Kai, what do you bring to the table this week?
I got Chattanooga, and this line has come down. I've lost about 1.5 of value since this morning. But Jake Stevens is back. That's the story for Chattanooga. He's a total game changer. Per pivot analysis, 19 points per 100 possessions better with Jake Stevens on the floor. That's net offense, defense. They're way better on both ends when he's playing. And Chattanooga also has a slight matchup edge here. Number 1 3-point attempt rate in the SoCon. Sanford allows the second highest amount of threes in conference play. There's going to be opportunities on the perimeter, especially with Stevens back in the fold. Even at 1.5, I'm still leaning towards and taking Chattanooga.
Yeah, it's just a world's difference with Stevens back in the lineup. He means so much to them. They got him back just in time. They're now a real threat as long as he's healthy and in the lineup to win the SoCon. Jim, what you got today?
Going with Wake Forest +1 here. I have on the opposite of Kai. I saw this -1 last night. It has flipped the other way. I don't agree with it. I think Syracuse has basically rolled over this year. They've given up 143 3-point attempts in the last 4 games. Like, they're just not playing any defense. They haven't given up less than 1.25 points per possession in over 3 weeks. Like, they are just getting absolutely demolished. Wake Forest is in the 97th percentile of zone offense, but they're also 89th percentile man offense. I think no matter what Boeheim tries to throw out there, the Demon Deacons are going to run over them. Now, I wish Monsanto was playing, the absolute lights out gunner for Wake Forest. He's the perfect zone buster. He could have taken like 25 threes in this game if he wanted to. But even without him, I think there's enough shooting on that Deacon squad. And I don't believe in Syracuse at this stage. I think they're kind of going in their separate ways. It's going to be a lot of portal activity and potentially a Boeheim exit after this year.
Yeah, I was watching the Boeheim presser after that Georgia Tech game. They gave up 90+ in 3 straight games, first time in program history. Georgia Tech shredded that zone so bad. They had to go to man like the rest of the game. And they were asking him, what's wrong with the defense? It's March. He said, I have no idea. He had no answers on why the defense was broken, and he was just perplexed. So, yeah, that Syracuse defense is just completely lost right now. All right, let's go to some Big South madness. It's not disappointing already. Let's go back to USC Upstate, catching points here against the 1 seed UNC Asheville. UNC Asheville, look, Drew Pember is an absolute stud, the Tennessee transfer. He's capable of going for 30 or 40 on any given night. But Upstate actually is the only team to beat them since January 1st. I think they match up pretty well. They can cause a lot of turnovers here. Now, Asheville should get to the line a lot, but outside of Pember, they're really poor free throw shooting team, which could work in Upstate's favor. I think that's just a pretty good matchup here. They can carry over that momentum from yesterday. And look, Upstate all year, Asheville all year, not only were they lucky from a shooting standpoint, but they also just won a ton of close games and in overtime. They didn't really win a lot by margin. So give me Upstate and just another Big South madness thriller that goes down to the wire. All right, let's move on to our next segment, Around the World. The way that this works is we have a layup, which is a double-digit favorite. We have a free throw, which is a game that's close to a pick. We have a three-pointer, which is, kind of a 3 to 9 point underdog, then a half-court shot, which is your double-digit underdog. Jim, I think you're going to take the layup today. What do you got?
Sure am. Going with Creighton here. Just a team that absolutely obliterates bad teams. Like, look at their record, only 19-11, yet they're top 15 in KenPom. What does that tell you? Well, when they win big, and they especially do so against inferior competition. They've beaten Butler by 20 twice this year. They beat St. John's by 28. They beat this DePaul team by 15 in the first meeting, and they just beat Georgetown by 40. I think that tells you they are still very incentivized to demolish these bad teams, and DePaul has kind of rolled over a little bit. 2-9 against the spread in their last 11. Since they got Caleb Murphy back, they have been really, really bad. They got drilled by UConn last game, got down by 20 in the first 5 minutes. It was ridiculous. And that first meeting was the weird Christmas game, and Creighton still won by 15 with, that odd kind of motivational spot. I think they take care of business on the road here and win by 20 plus going away.
Now, in regards to Creighton, Jim, they're one of the handful of teams that, fits the qualifications, the KenPom qualifications for a potential national title winner if you look over the past 20 years. But do you think that they're potentially overvalued going in to the NCAA tournament when they face better teams because they might, their analytical rankings might be inflated because of what they've done against bad teams?
Yeah, and I think they're pretty streaky too. Their shooting is it's either on or it's off. I talked about this early in the year, but they had a lot of games either over 45% or under 25% from three. They didn't hit a lot of just normal average games. And so it takes one off night and suddenly they're in trouble. And I think we saw what Villanova did to them. If you have a big that can pull Kalkbrenner away from the rim, then they really, really struggle defensively. Great defense if he's at the rim, but if you can pull him away, then they've got some issues. They're not going to have a great seeding path either in the tournament. So I like them. I don't love them as a postseason darling.
Got it. All right, Matt, I think you're going to step up to the charity stripe to try and drain a free throw. What do you got?
Yeah, great free throw shooter, by the way. I think I'm on 90% for my career. So I'm going to take my Homer Duke Blue Devils plus 3.5 on the road at Chapel Hill, looking for the season sweep of the Tar Heels, who are playing really well right now. I think you have to acknowledge the form that UNC has recently turned a corner. Pete Nance making shots, Leaky Black making shots. The fact that Baycott had 1 point last game and they still won pretty handily on the road, Florida State, is telling. However, the Duke pieces are starting to fall in place here with the way Jeremy Roach is playing. He looks like the Roach we saw last year in that really incendiary run during March Madness, playing well alongside Proctor. Whitehead starting to come back from the fold and make shots in a timely fashion. I just think this Duke team is still undervalued. So look at last game against NC State. They were up big, had a late kind of fluky run from the Wolfpack, much to Duke backers' chagrin. But I think this team's still undervalued. 35, I think, in KenPom is the current rank. So I think they get that season sweep here today at Chapel Hill.
By the way, I've been looking for a new villain on your Blue Devils, and Proctor in that flop, he might just be the guy for me against NC State. All right, I'm going to take the 3-point shot. I'm going to go back to Ohio State, and I want to remind everyone, they've won 2 in a row. if they win their next 12, they are your national champions. But catching 7.5 here. If you recall, a couple weeks ago, they closed 4.5-point favorites against Michigan State at home. Now that line was probably wrong and they got blown out. But if you look at, a game grade of that, it was basically a toss up. They just missed every possible three. Ohio State's playing really well right now. They've kind of figured out their rotations in the post Zed Key era since he was lost for the season to an injury. I think their bigger guards on the perimeter can give Michigan State some issues. So yeah, they're playing loose here. And you're going to hear Michigan State, look, they're in that jumble mess playing for seeding in the Big Ten tournament. It's senior day. That can work against teams too. They come out pressing, trying a little bit too hard. I think this is just too many points for an Ohio State team that's kind of playing loose and playing as well as they have all season after bottoming out pretty much in that Michigan State game. So give me the Buckeyes. Kai, you're going to step up and try to drain one from half court. What do you got?
I'm going Chicago State, man. Chicago's independent team. Last game of the year for the Cougars. Their season's over after this one. Fresno State does not care about this game. The Mountain West is over. Regular season's over. The tournament starts soon. I don't think Fresno's very good. They don't have a potent offense. This game should be relatively low possessions. I can see Chicago State hanging around here. They're 13-9 against the spread as an underdog this season, covering games by an average of 3 points. Give me the Cougars in their last hurrah.
I do want to tell everyone out there that they might be glad to hear. I will not be betting Fresno State today. I don't think any team has cost me more money than the Bulldogs. Either getting blown out or just falling apart in the final minute. That team is so frustrating. But yeah, Chicago State ending the season on one of the oddest March road swings at Gonzaga than at Fresno State that you'll see. All right, good stuff around the world. Let's move on to our next segment, and that is our spot up. You can kind of take this any way you want. It's our favorite spots of the day. Maddie, our leadoff hitter, it's back to you. Third time around the order. What do you got?
I'm going to take Binghamton. The Bearcats here. We have the America East tournament kicking off today. It's a spot play for me because they're playing UMBC, the Retrievers, who they just played at their home gym on Tuesday, lost in overtime. It's actually their second straight overtime loss. They've lost 4 in a row, but they've actually been fairly competitive in those bouts. And now they go back on the road to UMBC. I think it's a great spot to back them because you kind of have that, immediate revenge flip-flop angle, the, renewed motivation and focus with the stakes high now that it is championship season. And the fact they just played them, they have the confidence that they can play them competitively. So I think 7.5 for a team that, underachieved, I think all year. It was a team that many people had pegged as a potential top 5, dark horse contender. There is talent here. I think Lavelle Sanders is a good coach. I think they come out and compete today wire to wire with the Retrievers in DC.
Kai?
I'm going against my buddy Matt from earlier. I'm going UNC -3, -3.5 against Duke for my best spot. It's winning in for the Tar Heels for the NCAA tournament. They win this game. I can't see the committee keeping them out. It'll be their second Q1 win along with Virginia. They get to avenge the earlier loss to Duke. Obviously, this is an enormous rivalry. Lots of hype for this game. They can keep Duke off the glass. They're the best defensive rebounding team in the ACC. That's key against Duke, who's the best offensive rebounding team. And they're heating up from outside. They're 24 for 51 from 3. Last 2 games, it's 47%. Could argue some regression is coming. I think this team is built on streaks and staying hot, and I think they stay hot again here against Duke. Give me UNC -3, -3.5.
Little Matt versus Kai showdown. We'll have to come up with a
Yikes.
side bet off the air. By the way, UNC 11 losses is the most all time for a preseason number 1.
Wow.
Jim, spot up. What do you got?
Well, with Western Kentucky +8.5 here, not a great spot in that they're not at home, but I really like Rick Stansbury as an underdog. 42-26 against the spread at Western Kentucky. That's been his zone. Really talented teams that play up against better competition. And the spot is great because North Texas is completely locked into the 2 seed in the CUSA tournament. They cannot get in at large either, I don't think. So there's just not a ton to play for the Mean Green. Whereas Western Kentucky is still kind of in a battle for seeding in the middle of that league. So I think they compete in a very slow game, kind of a mountain to climb here to get over 8.5. Western Kentucky lost by 4 earlier in the season. I think it's another very competitive game with North Texas.
Yeah, with the way North Texas plays, just grinding games down to a halt, if they're playing a competent team, it can be tough for them to cover those larger numbers. I'm going to go with Auburn here against Tennessee. Auburn's been really snake bit in conference play at the end of games and close games. Just go back to that first matchup against Tennessee when they went, I think, 3 of 27 from 3, and they had a missed call at the end when they were clearly fouled. They're coming off that Alabama game when they lost in overtime, but I think they'll be ready here, and they're just a different team at home. Their erratic guards play a lot better. Cardwell didn't play in the first matchup. Ziegler did. He didn't play well, but I think Tennessee's going to miss him. Look, they all stepped up without him in their last game, but he's really the initiator of that offense. Tennessee's lost 4 straight on the road. I think this is a good spot to get the Tigers in the jungle. All right, let's move on to our Twitter poll that I mentioned earlier, talking a little Pac-12 in the game tonight between Arizona and UCLA. UCLA 5-ish point favorite here. Looks like you guys, again, pretty split across the board. Matt, any thoughts here on the side or total or just general thoughts in this game?
Yeah, slight lean toward Arizona. I think their size and physicality up front could potentially give UCLA problems. The Bruins' young bigs have played a lot better than I thought. And I was just, not so far away from Jaime Jaquez going full nuclear on Thursday against Arizona State. I just think Arizona at this price, +5, seems a little bit too high. I think it should be closer to a field goal. So if you have to get involved, I'd take the road Cats.
Yeah, in the first matchup, they got the UCLA post into a ton of foul trouble. And that was a game that had to be encouraging a little bit for Arizona fans when they won that game. Seeing Arizona win a game like 58-52 in more of a grinder, right? They're used to like, hey, we got to get out in transition. And for what it's worth, Arizona is an elite pick and roll defense, which is enormous against UCLA. Kai, what are you seeing here?
Yeah, I lean towards Arizona. Like Matt said, I think the spread's just a little bit too high. I think these teams are closer to equals on a neutral floor. Nothing really fancy here on the lean. It's strictly number. I respect UCLA a ton. I might take UCLA to win the tournament when that bracket is revealed. But I think it's too many points. 5 points. It's going to be a big game, obviously. UCLA has the Pac-12 wrapped up already. Nothing really to play for in terms of that. They're still in the play for a 1 seed in the tournament, but I think Arizona keeps it close.
Jim, you going to make this a consensus?
Yeah, I'm going to join the Congo line with the boys here on Arizona. They have been at their best when they play elite competition. If you filter Bart Torvik for only quad 1A games, Arizona's #1 in the country. And this is a quad 1A game at UCLA, a team still trying to get on that 1 seed line. Arizona, though, wants to stay in the 2 because that probably keeps them out west or at least has a decent chance of it, though UCLA's presence may upset that potential. If they're going to pass UCLA in the seed line, they need to win today. They need to beat them again in the Pac-12 tournament. That would keep them west. So I like Arizona. I think they, at the very least, keep it close and potentially win outright.
Jim, let me put you on the spot here. If you could only take 3 teams to win the NCAA tournament right now, would UCLA be one of those 3?
Yes, it would be Houston, UCLA, and the third one would be probably either Bama or Kansas. I'd have to think about the third one.
I am disappointed that you did not say our frogs. Are they just my frogs now or what?
They're number 5. They're number 5 in that one. I wish
Okay.
they had a better seeding path, man. They're going to be like a 4 or 5.
Yeah, that's true. But this year, there's not that big of a difference between the 1s and 4s. But yeah, that's you don't get as big of a break early on. All right. Before we get to our final best bet, I do want to remind everyone that hasn't seen it yet. We have an action watch party. I will be there. Chris Raybon will be there. Chad Millman, along with our new Green Dot Daily host, Maria Brino. It's Saturday. I forget the date now. I think it's March 25th. It's the Elite 8, the Saturday Elite 8 in Hoboken. Come hang out with us, sweat some bets. Hopefully TCU is still around for my futures purposes, but there's a link to RSVP. I've tweeted it out. The Action Handles tweeted it out. So I hope to see you there if you are in the area. All right, we have one final order of business to get to, and that's our final best bet. Maddie, last time through the order, what do you got?
Man, the money is pouring in on Mississippi State. I think it's justified. I think I'd bet this up to 5. Very simple handicap here. Liam Robbins is done for Vandy. I think that's not only a huge hit to them on the court on both ends, but just the emotional, spiritual devastation of that, especially off the Kentucky win. I think Vandy's a fade from now on without Robbins. So I'm going to lay it with Mississippi State here on the road.
Yeah, it's interesting because Vandy, I think, is better than some of the teams that are going to make the NCAA tournament, like actual at-larges. And with Robbins, that is, they would have been an interesting long shot in the SEC tournament. But without him, it's a different ball game. Kai, final best bet?
We're going back to the Big South tournament. Campbell, you can find +4 out there. They're ridiculously scrappy. They're athletic. They have a long front court. That's good against Radford, who's kind of weak inside, weaker in the paint, we can say. And Campbell likes to throw a tricky zone at their opponents. Radford, not a great shooting team. I think it kind of messes with them in this game. I'm taking Campbell +4.
Rolling with the Camels, roll humps, as they say. Jim?
Roll humps.
I'm going VCU, team that's been really, really rolling in league play of late. They have clinched the number 1 seed in this tournament, so maybe there's some questionable incentive for them, but I think they can pressure George Washington into oblivion, a team that has not seen VCU yet this year. I think there's going to be a little bit of a whoa factor for the first time against that pressure. I just think they're the best team in the league and have definitely played their best ball recently. So VCU -7.
All right, good stuff there. I'm going to close things out with Hawaii, who I think is the best team in the conference, and not enough people are talking about. More Sec, the 7-foot big man who has been on a tear the past 2 games since De Silva went out. I'm not sure if De Silva will be back, but with Sec in the lineup, I mean, he had in his first start against UC Irvine, to get 14 points and just 16 rebounds, something insane. He is legit. Hawaii's had lost 9 games this year. 6 have come by 2 or less or in overtime. They've been super close. I think they match up pretty well here. UCSB does want to live in the mid-range, which Hawaii will give you, which is a bit of a concern, but I think this will be a grinder. Happily take the points with Hawaii, who I think barely is the best team in the league. All right, good stuff across the board today. Hopefully we can follow up last week's performance. Let's go to a quick recap. Let's see, Matt, you had Iona first half, Duke, Binghamton, and Mississippi State. Kai, you went with Chattanooga, Chicago State, North Carolina, and Campbell. And Jim, you went Wake Forest, Creighton, Western Kentucky, VCU. I went Upstate, Ohio State, Auburn, and Hawaii. But I think we got to give it to Kai for the ugliest card, but nothing too ugly, which you'll find this time of the year. But thanks to all of you for tuning in. Thanks to the guys from the 3-Man Weave, as always, for joining me. Thanks to our audio and video teams on the back end. One final reminder, make sure you download the award-winning Action Network app. You can find all of our bets there in addition to an abundance of data and content for today's slate and beyond. And BetMGM, bonus code ACTION. Get first bet insurance up to $1,000. Also, make sure that you listen to Big Bets on Campus. Wherever you listen to podcasts, we will have a ton of conference tournament preview content coming out early this week. We'll also be back same time next week, Big Bets on Campus Live, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll also have a conference tournament preview show on Tuesday, so stay tuned for that. Good luck on all of your wagers today and enjoy the madness. Cheers.